Hello, this is Joe with Smoking Joe's Pit Barbecue, and you are listening to the Barbecue Central Show.
Start the game! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Good evening and welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show. This is the show that talks about all things that are important to the world of barbecue and grilling. The show originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city, Bomb City, USA, Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I'm your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evenings, a live fire fun and provided the show. If you'd like to get in contact with the show this evening, or you would like to follow the show during off-show hours, here's how you do that.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to Greg at BBQCentralShow.com. Follow us on all the social media channels at BBQ Central Show. And be sure to subscribe to the show podcast feed on your favorite podcast platform.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you get the newsletter coming up in about 12 minutes from now. We tried to line him up 2 months ago, I think, in April-ish, and he ran into something last minute, didn't have time to give me a heads up. Thought he ghosted me for the segment, which left me pissed. But then we got it sorted out. So, making his debut on the show tonight, Tim Clowers, backyard barbecue expert, social media maven, and the like. Then, 35 past the hour, third Tuesday of the month, brings a visit from creator of CookoutNews.com, Wes Wright. And there's so much business to talk. I can't believe what's transpired in the last 30 days, not the least of which is a grill promotion by a brand who you may or may not be familiar with if you are a rube or even intermediate in your knowledge in the industry at the moment. It's maybe a brand you've never heard of. For those experts and nerds like myself, maybe some of the Centralites, you've heard of it. We're going to tease it and leave it right there, so stay tuned for that. And then many other things as well. That brings a close to the first hour. And then we will move to the second hour, where we will have a visit from now BBQ Hall of Famer this year, 2024, Eddy Maurin. Very excited to catch up with Ed. You might remember towards the end of last year, Ed did a origin story because he made it into the Barbecue Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame last year, the most important Hall of Fame out of all Halls of Fames. And we did that huge, very popular, very eye-opening origin story on Eddy. In fact, when we were sound checking yesterday, he went out of his way to say how many people had reached out to him or had just magically found that interview on the internet, listened to it, and then called them up, told them what a great job it was and how inspirational it was. So that's always glad to hear from a host perspective and a content perspective, but glad Eddy took advantage of that opportunity and really put out a great interview. So we'll talk to him about getting into the Barbecue Hall of Fame. We'll talk about business, many other things. And then closing out the show tonight is me talking about this past weekend in Utah at ThermoWorks. That's right. Once again, inside of a week, I hopped a bird and made it into Denver, and then shit really went south, but eventually I made it into Utah late Thursday, and then we had the big event there Friday for culinary training and a launch of a new product. There were barbecue socialites, recipe developer socialites, baking socialites, legends of cooking industry in general, all not to be outdone by the one Alton Brown, who a lot of people love. And we got to hang out with him in person, aside from his keynote, which I am hoping to post here in the next handful of days. I'm on the fence as far as sound quality went and distance I was at. I gave it a shot. So we might give it a run if I get some negative feedback on how bad it sounds, and I'll do my best to set the preface. But if it's really bad, I'll just end up taking it down. But I did record it for those that want to hear it and who are fans of Alton. So stay tuned for that here over the next couple days. Don't forget you can follow me socially, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, LinkedIn, all with the handle at BBQ Central Show. And, of course, we say good evening to those of you watching tonight through one of our video streaming platforms. You can go to Facebook.com/BBQ Central Show or Twitter.com/BBQ Central Show. Or you can watch on YouTube, which is YouTube.com/@BBQ Central Show, where we have a new YouTube poll question of the week, and we're asking everybody this. You would buy the solar power unit that Ritzwerk is making for pellet cookers, and currently 89% of you strongly saying no. You will not buy it. We're not a huge number of votes in at this point, 6 minutes into the show. And there's been plenty of times when you've seen, well, now it's 90-10 with the no's, but we've seen it bridge up to 50-50 by end of the show, or it goes completely the other way. So we'll see how that works out through the rest of the evening. We'll ask all the guests as well, so stay tuned for that. Results from the poll last week asking if you were shocked that Joey Chestnut has been banned from this year's Nathan Famous hot dog eating contest. 65% of you said yes, you were surprised. 35% of you saying no. And now I'm stuck with what I need to do first thing this evening. Do I talk about the latest update to the hot dog eating contest that I saw, or do we do a smoke shop barbecue peanut review? I think we have to do the peanut review. So here they are, the Smoke Shop Barbecue Peanuts. They're in a nice sealed bag. In fact, Andy sent me two. By the way, he's sponsoring my shirt tonight. So there's an unopened pack right here. And if you're so interested, we can run some kind of a game show, and you can get your hands on the Smoke Shop Barbecue Peanuts by Andy Husbands and the crew out there at the Smoke Shop up there in the New England area. Ingredients are as follows: peanuts, up and smoke all-purpose barbecue spice, which lists all the ingredients in there that I'm not going to mention, pasteurized egg whites, powdered sugar, chipotle powder, and then my favorite ingredient ever that nobody likes to talk about, MSG, which I really like, really pop of flavor. All right. So I haven't tasted them yet, but I did tear off the secret top. Take a sniffy sniff, as my man Gary Vaynerchuk would say. So I'm getting a strong bouquet of peanuts, of course, because they're peanuts. Now, I don't know if you can see it or not, but you can see, it's not like normal dry roasted peanuts. You can see there is some type of a spice coating on there. By the way, if you're listening audibly, you can go to Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube for the video if you want to see it. But they obviously look like they're caked in something. So let's go ahead and grab a handful. This is what so this is what it's going to look like going in. And I'm just going to drop them all in. I'm going to mute my microphone so you can't hear me chewing because that's gross. And then I'll be back with a take of flavor. Initial hit of peanut, of course, followed quickly by a sweetness, a sugary sweetness. There is powdered sugar. And now, wow. Riding in the background and building is some heat. Whoa. And this is back of the throat heat. This has got to be coming from the chipotle powder, no doubt, and then whatever heat spice Andy has put in that barbecue rub that was the second ingredient listed. So my only concern would be at the second handful, is the heat going to stay where it's at? Because right now it's tolerable. It is noticeable. And I'm no heat punk. I like hot. But it's noticeable. I don't know if I would want to have it continue to build and become unbearable. Because I like to eat a lot of peanuts at one time. I said peanuts at one time. Well, we might have to put that to the test. If you want the other bag, email me right now, Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com. And in the subject line, put peanuts. Peanuts, I said. I'll send you the other bag. And again, right off the bat, flavor of peanuts, immediately followed by sweetness, probably from the powdered sugar. And then this lingering heat. Wowee. If I drank, I would be washing it down with an ice-cold Budweiser. All right, Tim Clowers is ready to go. We'll get to him here in just 1 second. Before we do that, let me tell you about the Members Mark Pro Series thermostatic gas grill. Only available in your local Sam's Club store and nowhere else except online at the Sam's Club website. This was thoughtfully designed and engineered with materials specifically selected for their durability and performance. The firebox was designed to deliver the ultimate in heat retention, durability, and premium corrosion resistance. Every detail of the cooking system has been fine-tuned to ensure superior and consistent cooking performance, including heavy-gauge cooking grates, which I can attest to, powerful 304 stainless steel burners, which I can attest to, and a weatherproof channel ignition system that offers the most reliable ignitions in the industry. By the way, if I'm not mistaken, that ignition system is made right here in Cleveland, Ohio, technically east in Solon, Ohio. A former high school arch rival of mine, that in Chagrin Falls, but we digress. Members Mark Pro Series with the thermostatic control, now available at your local Sam's Club store. So if you want to use it as a regular grill, you can do that just by using the knobs to control the heat, or you can go crazy and dial in an exact temperature, 225, 250, and then 50-degree increments around the dial all the way up to 450 degrees. So you can roast, you can bake, you can even do slow-cooked ribs or pork butt or brisket. Remember, this thing's got a ton of space. Oh, by the way, really great stainless fit and finish, great storage underneath with cabinetry, and you have an infrared side burner for how much? $6.99. It's winning the internet and it's winning retail. I'm telling you right now, if that thing had a different name brand that you know, like Weber or whoever else, 17 or 1800 degrees, or 17 or $1,800. But you can save all that money if you go to the Sam's Club and you look at the Members Mark Pro Series grill. They have a 5 and a 4 burner. You check it out and you tell me if you think I'm lying. We're back with Tim Clowers right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Broadcasting live from the BBQ Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by cookinpellets.com, your number one source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers. When you are ready to buy, go to walmart.com, lowes.com, or amazon.com. That's right, lowes.com, walmart.com, or amazon.com. Same great products that you would find on the Cookin' Pellets website, except they have tremendously better shipping rates, it's told to me by Chris Becker, the guy that owns Cookin' Pellets. So he's telling me to tell you. And still chasing him down for an interview. It's very hard to guard. Leading off the show tonight, a guy who has been in or around food for the past 20 years in various forms and fashion, an avid griller, an avid barbecuer, amongst other things. He has also grown his social media platforms to very impressive heights. For instance, 321,000 or so of you follow him already on Instagram to check out his pictures and videos. He's also worked with some pretty popular brands as well. Let's welcome our first-time guest, Tim Clowers, to the show. Tim, appreciate you joining me here this evening. Before we get going tonight with the food talk and the cooker talk, we have a YouTube poll question of the week that we ask everybody watching on YouTube and, of course, all guests. And I'm asking everybody this tonight, Tim. Would you buy a solar-powered unit that Ritzwerk is making for pellet cookers? Now, I'm not going to pretend you're a huge fan of the show, but last week a guy was on the show, and he's making this device that you can fit on top of an existing pellet cooker with a solar panel, and it will soak up all the sun's rays. You don't have to be tethered to the house anymore, and now you can plug into this unit instead of plugging into the outlet of your house. So with that explanation, are you buying or not?
I'm buying.
Yes.
100% in.
All
because
right.
we get a lot of sunshine here in East Tennessee.
Yeah, well, 20% of the YouTube voting publish are agreeing with both you and I with the yes, but 80% of the folks are saying they'll probably hold off, at least at the moment, and there were some other things that he was bringing to market as well. First time on the show, Tim, and again, appreciate you coming on here this evening. Let's get a background on you, where you're born and raised, and where you're at currently.
So I live in a town called Knoxville, Tennessee, home of the Volunteers. Go Vols. We are currently in the College World Series, doing pretty well.
Nice.
For the first time in a while. And I was originally born and raised about 100 miles southwest of here in a town called Chattanooga. But I have moved around in my life. I lived in Dallas, Texas area for roughly 13 years. Born and raised in Chattanooga, like I said, and I've been here for the last 12 years in Knoxville, Tennessee. And then I spent 3 years in Southeast Asia doing missions work for 3 years from 99 to 02, which was a phenomenal experience. I got to travel not only just all around the country of the Philippines, but all over Southeast Asia. And I was also from 02 to about 08, 09, right in there. I also got to travel extensively all over Eastern Europe, Central Europe, Africa, mainly Central Africa, Central America, a little bit of South America, and all over the Pacific, and had a lot of, I guess I'm at about 63 countries, if you wanted to add my list.
Is this all like for profession stuff, or why are you going to all these places? I would never go anywhere like that.
Well, it's mainly doing a lot of missions work. That's really the focus of really the most of the travel. And sometimes, like for example, I had to rough it. We'd have to stop in Italy for 3 days on the way back from a missions trip and figure, you got to recoup somewhere. Might as well either be there or maybe like in Frankfurt, Germany, for example. I hung out there for a couple of days on my way back from a missions trip.
Is it dangerous? So, like, to me, you look through history, and one of the most fought over things ever is religion. So, if you're, I'm assuming this is what we're talking about, mission work. I had, friends that were like Mormons, and they did their 2-year mission after high school, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
So, so you're going into potentially dangerous areas in general, and now you're also doing mission work, which could potentially lead to even more consternation. How are you able to mentally get through that, or is that what the faith is all about for you?
Well, it is a little bit about what the faith is about, what you believe in. You know, if you believe in God and He's sovereign, He's going to protect you, then you have a purpose, you have a calling is the reason why you're going. Number one, and then number two, there's also a little bit of common sense involved too. It's kind of like if you're I guess you want to say like a young female or a female, you don't want to go down to a dark alley by yourself around 1 o'clock in the morning. There's a little bit of common sense involved in knowing your environment where you're in. And so you put the two together, you play I guess the semantics of the culture and understand where you should be and where you shouldn't be. But sometimes, it is a little bit of the blind leading the blind. You don't always know the situations and circumstances where you're going to be at or involved in. So you just have to, I guess, number one, pray and pray for protection and safety. And I guess the closest thing that I ever came to of, I guess, some really terror was two situations. I was in an island southwest of the Philippines, and I arrived at this hotel resort type place. In your mind, you're thinking resort, the Hilton, something like that. But this was not like the Hilton. It was like $30 a night, and it barely had air conditioning. And so literally we didn't realize it, but there were two missionaries abducted and they were killed the night before we arrived. And I didn't even know it.
Whoa.
And then you fast forward another 6 months, a similar situation when I arrived in the southern part of the country. And I didn't leave my hotel unless I had an escort and people were taking me somewhere. So there's just wisdom that you put into play to make sure that you stay safe.
What's been the background in live fire?
Gosh, it really started about, in the 80s. I just loved cooking over a grill. I went to work for a restaurant company called Grady's. They're no longer around. They were bought by, back then it was a company called Brinker, which is, I guess, the Chili's Corporation. I don't know what it's called now, but they own, massive amounts of restaurants. And I just remember when I got into the restaurant business, I was a server and I was also a cook, a back of house guy and the front of the house guy. And I just love the flavor of mesquite wood and cooking over an open fire. And that's how we did it back in the restaurant that I started at. It was throwing logs on this giant grill and getting a really good smoky charcoal flavor on the meat that you cooked on the grill. And I was like, that's kind of really where it started for me. And then it's just obviously being in the restaurant business and being big into barbecue now, living in Texas for, I guess, 13 years. You kind of get indoctrinated. If you're going to live in Texas, you're going to get indoctrinated to barbecue a little bit, especially brisket. And that was a big culture of being in Texas is barbecue. And I guess you could say that's where I got indoctrinated a lot, is what I love about barbecue now is living in Texas for those 13 years.
When you decide to start focusing on live fire content?
Gosh, I would say it's been it's in the last 5 years.
That's like you're not a grizzled vet then, technically speaking. Yeah.
No, I've not been doing it for years and years. Now, I will say back in 2014 is when I started getting into smoking. But I started off with a little, back in that time when I started, it was this little upright master built wood chip smoker. And it had this little tray. It was about that big.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't know, $249 at Sam's Club. And I was running a catering business and we were feeding anywhere from, 1,200 to as much as 2,000 people a week.
Wow.
And I remember that's how I started smoking, pork butt and brisket, on a regular basis. And then from there, it just kind of grew into, oh, wait, like in 2019, 2020, right before COVID is when I started cooking over open fire. And I started like, wow, this is even better because I'm even new to charcoal grill, using charcoal briquettes and lump charcoal. I'm kind of a rookie to that. I've only been doing that for about 3 years. And just some of the flavor profiles that you can develop over, live fire cooking, it's amazing. And right in the middle of COVID, or right before COVID, is when I bought my first really big offset smoker, where, you feed it these big logs. And I just was amazed at the flavor that you could produce from that kind of a product. Like, for example, last week I made a video and I did a test. I had 2 pellet grills that I won't name. And then I had my offset reverse flow smoker, and I had 4 racks of ribs. I put 1 rack of rib on one pellet grill, and I put another rack of ribs on the other pellet grill, and I put 2 racks of ribs on my large offset smoker. And I took them through the same exact process and smoked them the same amount of time. And the end result, I mean, who do you think won the contest?
I know who won it. It's the offset stick burner because it's a way different combustion process. You're moving a tremendous more amount of air through the cooker, and for whatever reason, that smoke penetrates that meat in a much different way. Look, the truth is this: the one knock against pellet cookers. I don't care if you tell me who the name of the pellet cookers are or not. I mean, we have sponsors of the show, but it doesn't matter. We only talk open and honestly here on the show. But the one knock against on
Camp Chef and Rectech.
Hey, all right, perfect. So the knock against has always been if you want a heavy smoke profile or even a medium smoke profile, the pellet cooker is not going to be able to produce that. Now, maybe the long and the short of it is most people don't care to have a heavy profile or a dirty smoke profile on their meat, so the pellet cooker is just fine, not to mention ease and convenience, and you don't have to learn fire management and all of this stuff. But I'm with you. When I had a Lang offset and before that a close offset, there was no better tasting barbecue. And to your point of living in Texas, what do they use? They use offsets, and it's widely considered to be the best barbecue that's currently available across the United States, of course, under much debate. But for my money, and I've been around a number of the barbecue meccas, an offset stick burner provides the best barbecue. So I'm with you on that.
Oh, I agree. And maybe a lot of the audience don't know, or maybe they do know. I guess you could say a pellet grill, they're great. They serve a great purpose, but it's really, in one sense, it's really a convection oven that produces smoke.
Correct. You've built a large Instagram following, about 3 times or so the size of your YouTube channel at the moment. Did you start on Instagram first, or did Instagram just gain more traction for whatever reason?
Actually, I started on TikTok.
First.
That was my first platform. And the way that happened was right in the middle of, or right towards the end of the shutdown, I think in late 2020, early 21, my kids, my oldest son and my youngest daughter, they said, "Dad, you should get on TikTok. I think they would like you. You can cook. You can pretty much cook almost anything. You're not the best cook, obviously, but your personality, I think they would like you because you're kind of a goofball. You got a good dab vibe." And I was like, okay, why the heck not? So I got on TikTok and kind of goofed off for, I don't know, January, February, March, and didn't really take it too serious. And then all of a sudden we go on a trip out west, me, my wife, and my daughter, and I posted a video, and then we came back to the hotel that night. We're like, holy crap, this thing's got like 1 million views.
Wow.
And I was like, maybe I might be onto something, And so I just kept I kept at it, and I really started truthfully in March of 2021. And by May of 2022, I had 1 million followers on TikTok.
Wow.
And then, I had an Instagram account, but it just kind of naturally, organically grew to, I don't know, 7,000 or 8,000 people, and people just started finding me. And then I started my full Instagram page. I started posting there, specific content for there. And then sometimes I would replicate. And then after there, I started YouTube. Then I started Facebook, and now I'm on Snapchat.
Yeah.
And it's come full circle. And for the most part, I make one video, but I do kind of split things up, and I do make separate content for each platform depending on what the dish is or whatever I'm cooking.
With this notoriety, fame, whatever you want to call it, influence, you get approached by a lot of brands, you get a lot of cookers and other accoutrements. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say, you've either done deals or you've gotten your hands on some cookers. So what are you using, or what's in the backyard first, and then what are you using most often?
So I have that has happened. I've gotten a lot of cookers and grills. I mean, you name it. I've gotten all kinds of different devices, and they all, I love them. And I would probably say my two go-to favorite pieces of equipment that I've gone to for probably about the last year and a half to 2 years is my Camp Chef pellet grill, and I also have a Schwank infrared grill.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, those are. I love the Schwank because it's fast, it's simple, cleanup doesn't take very long, and there's something about my Camp Chef Woodwind Pro. I just like the result that I get out of it, and I'll just do a deep clean about every 3 to 4 months, and then I kind of restore it back to new. Scrub it down, get all nasty and dirty, and if you're in the live fire cooking business, it's a dirty business.
Let me run you back to the Schwank real quick because they sponsored the show for the past 3 months. And I get a lot of questions especially when we have guests who just happen to mention that they have either used one or they're a current fan. What do you find the best ways to use it are?
So I will say it's pretty versatile. In fact, I just used it about 2 hours ago. And that is no joke. It's not this wasn't planned or anything. It just so happened I used it, and it's very versatile from the sense of it'll cook almost any cut of meat in terms of a steak. You can cook seafood, and you can also cook chicken. I haven't really tried burgers yet. And the reason that I think it's pretty versatile is because it starts up fast. It heats, I guess you could say it starts up fast, easy. It's always reliable. It'll heat up pretty darn quick. And whatever you're cooking, depending on how high you raise that tray and what you're cooking, it's going to cook it really fast. Like, for example, I made salmon tonight, and I literally made salmon. I had about two 6-ounce cuts of salmon, and they cooked in 3 minutes.
Wow.
And I did a test. I flipped one skin side up and one skin side down, and the skin, I raised it up to where it hits that hot infrared portion of it, hits at about 1,500 degrees. And literally within about 90 seconds, I lowered it and I peeled the skin off, and it was almost crispy.
Wow. Do you eat that?
I do.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the weirdo Asian, time that I spent in Asia.
Yeah. I'm not a big fish guy, but I mean, it's crispy. Anything sounds pretty good to me. Can it be too hot to cook, or is that where really learning the levels helps you out?
It can. You just have to know the limits of whatever protein you're cooking on to know when or how much time it could spend up there in that hot, really hot zone, and knowing when you need to drop it down to, say a reasonable cooking temperature to finish cooking. Because once you get up there near that 1,500 degree mark, it's just going to sear and burn. Otherwise, because you just want to keep it up there about between 45 seconds to no longer than maybe 90 seconds and drop it to finish cooking. And depending on how thick it is, that's what will determine some of that and the temperature of your meat. If it goes in, like at 35 degrees or 40, 45 degrees, that kind of depends on it too.
Do you ever take advantage of that drip tray and make like a resting sauce, or just throw 5-6 knobs of butter down there and let it melt while something's cooking, and then just drop something down in it to let it rest?
I do. Whenever I do that, it's usually when I'm making a New York strip or a ribeye. And then I did do it with a hanger steak about 2 weeks ago. I'll make it's either just some really good butter or a compound butter, and I'll put it down on that drip tray, and then you've got the fat that's dripped down from the meat. Unlike like a hanger steak, it's not going to have a lot of fat drip, but it's perfect. And I'll let the fat and the butter collect in that tray, and then once I let the meat rest, I'll cut it up and I'll pour that over the steak, and it's pretty dang phenomenal. I will say, in the last, I guess, almost 2 years since I've had the Schwank grill, probably some of the best steaks I've ever had in my life have come from that Schwank grill.
Would you say it's restaurant quality sear? Is that what we're talking?
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, we have a Ruth Chris in our city, and we also have a Fleming Steakhouse. I don't frequent those facilities anymore because I'm going to spend $130 for just for me to eat a meal, a steak there, and I can either go get me a good quality cut of meat at a local butcher or even find a good cut at Sam's for, say, $25 steak and eat way better than I could at Fleming's or Ruth Chris.
So if someone's on the fence about a $1,500 grill, and if they took advantage of the code when Schwenk was sponsoring the show, they could save $150. But if they didn't, and now they're back on that fence again, what do you tell someone to ease their concern over price?
Well, you have to understand the reliability and what you'll get out of the machine and what's the why behind it. Now, is it a pellet grill? Is it a smoker? No, it's not that. But if you are a huge fan of cooking meat quick and you love cooking your proteins with that, like not a charcoal grill, but a restaurant quality type steak, get off the fence, because it's probably one of my top favorite grills that I love to cook on. I used to do reverse sears on because I have a sidekick on my Camp Chef. I used to do reverse sears with my strips and my ribeyes, and I don't do that anymore. Just because, what a reverse sear does, it just gives you a great quality cut of flavor of your meat. And so no longer, because I come from old school, I guess you could say, back in the 80s when we had those Montague broilers where the drawers pulled out and you had, that sear that was just, that thing was phenomenal. And I get the same quality from back in the 80s when I first cut my teeth in the restaurant business on the Schwenk grill, because you get that perfect sear that's on the outside, as well as you get it really tender on the inside. And, lowering that, I don't know what the thing's called, the tray or whatever it is. Once you learn that, once you master that, you'll learn how to do chicken, fish, beef, and you cook so much faster. You spend way less time with your other grills. And that's not a sponsored comment either. That's just facts, because I do truly love the grill. I do.
Well, I appreciate your insight on that. So hopefully if anybody's on the fence, you've pushed them over in the right direction. Anything coming up for you that you'd like to promote, or anything new that you'd like to mention?
Actually, I've got a brand new website. It's called cookitwithtim.com. So this is really, we're not even 2 weeks in. I've launched a brand new website, because I've always struggled with the whole social media thing of, where do I put recipes? Do I put it in the captions? And people, I can't read it. It's too small. I can't really make it out what you're trying to say. How do I copy it and paste it? And so I've just really struggled with that for the last 2.5 years, of people wanting to get the recipes, that most people want at least 50% of my recipes or more. And so that's probably the biggest deal for me as I go into finishing the summer and into the fall, is you can find my full recipes. You can print them. You can pin them on Pinterest. I'm not making any cash on this. It's just a way that you can get recipes that I love to cook. And it's just, it's easy.
The website, cookitwithtim.com. So make sure you check that out. Talking with Tim Clowers here. Tim, really appreciate you coming on tonight, learning about you, and let's do it again.
Absolutely. Sounds good, Greg.
Thank you. Tim, right there. Tim Clowers. Cookitwithtim.com's new website. So make sure you check that out. And wow, a huge Schwenk Grills fan. Good to hear. Who isn't on the fence with Schwenk Grills? Maybe he's tipped you in the right direction. We'll see. Wes Wright is ready to go. We're a little over for him, but he knows the game by now. Primo Grills also knows that they're dominating the ceramic grill market. Yes, of course they are. Because they allow you to execute a 2-zone fire. It's the best way to manage a fire and cook with confidence. However, it's not a realistic thing to achieve in a round ceramic cooker. That's why Primo has brought their game-changing oval design. The shape gives you the ability to execute that 2-zone setup that you desire. It also gives you the other ceramic grill benefits as well. When you break it down, 60 different ways to cook on the Primo, only limited by your culinary imagination, also only sold through dealers. So go to primogrill.com, find the dealer near you, and then go check them out in person, touch and feel all the different ovals and accessories, and then buy the one that's best for you. And if you want the really big one, the XXL, you can pre-order that. We're probably coming up on getting ready to ship out at this point. I'll have to check with Nick Bauer on that. But that's what you want. Here's the bottom line. Best ceramics in the business. Yes. Patented technology. Yes. True two-zone cooking capabilities in multiple sizes. Yes and yes. Visit primogrill.com to find a dealer near you, and then follow them on Facebook and Instagram. We're back with Wes Wright right after this. Stick around.
You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the BBQ Central Show.
Thanks to Tim Clowers for joining us last segment. This portion brought to you by Fireboard 2, Fireboard 2 Dry, Fireboard 2 Pro. Monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. Connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring or the Bluetooth. Smart speaker compatible as well. Go to fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232 with questions. My next guest tonight runs cookoutnews.com. The third Tuesday of the month, regular guest here, 35 past the first hour. And he was once nominated for the BBQ Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame. Indeed, Wes Wright joins us. Wes, YouTube poll question of the week time before we get going here this evening on a bunch of business stuff. You would buy the solar-powered unit that Ritzwerk is making for pellet cookers, yes or no?
No.
Why not?
I guess it's kind of, it was a no with an explanation. Like I just don't need another pellet grill, but it's
yeah, but this is solar powered, Wes.
Yeah, I know. I have outlets though still, and I don't really go anywhere with my pellet grills. I think it's a cool idea though. Don't get me wrong.
Do you have a backyard?
I do, but it's a big
Patio?
hill to get in my backyard. Yeah, I do.
Well, now you can take that pellet grill all the way to the corner of the patio and not have to be worried about tethering to an outlet or running an extension cord, tripping hazard for the youth. I mean, this is probably the way to go. You should reconsider.
Yeah.
What do we think? Yes or no?
Okay, I'll go with yes. You sold me. I think for a portable pellet grill, it's a great idea too.
Oh, for sure.
You know,
whatever happened to remember Lion Energy a couple of years ago was making the bid in the live fire industry as far as like power banks, and they had, I don't want to say really big solar panels because then that conjures up thoughts of putting something on your roof, but they were things you like folded out and you just stuck them in the yard and then ran cables to the power bank, and you could, as long as you had sun, it appeared you could power a pellet cooker or whatever for as long as you wanted.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mean, batteries just, it's a problem with if you want to cook anything long on a portable pellet grill. So I think it's a great idea. I don't know why they don't stick with it though.
32% of the YouTube voting public are now aligning with you and me, saying yes, they would buy a Ritzwerk solar-powered pellet cooker adapter, whatever he's calling it, and then 68% of people still saying they have no interest in that. Blackstone. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, is there a video online of the offset working? I haven't seen the offset work.
No,
okay.
I think it's more like artist renderings. Mark, is obviously a super smart guy, but there's nothing that I've seen. He didn't take a reel of his offset and then the power moose going on. I have an idea of probably what it looks like or how it might work. It kind of reminded me of the Perfect Draft barbecue blower. Do you remember that from a couple of years ago?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so in my mind, I'm envisioning maybe a smaller version of that because I think he has a char griller. So to run it on a Franklin or a Close or a Pitts and Spitz, maybe that's a different monster. Maybe that's a subsequent conversation that I'll need to have with Mark Radvalsky down the road. But nevertheless, that was last week, so let's forget about that. Blackstone leads the run here tonight. Two things to talk about. First is the most recent news, the pellet cooker air fryer combo. What do we know about the unit?
Yeah, so you can get it in two models. You can get it just as a pellet grill. I think it's a Blackstone 900, so it's around 900 square inches of cooking area. Um, or you can do it with an air fryer. And what's unique, it's not just like an air fryer slapped onto the pellet grill. There's also sort of like those on like Masterbuilt's Gravity series. That's what I envision in my head, at least. There's like a plate you can pull out in between the air fryer and the pellet grill, so you can actually smoke the food too. That's within your air fryer.
Any idea or any feedback on how well they work?
I don't know. I don't have experience with a Blackstone air fryer. I have plenty of experience with their griddles and pizza ovens, just not their air fryer.
I have a 36-inch griddle that has 2 air fryers in the body. I think I'm being pretty generous when I say, while the capacity is good, performance is average at best. In fact, I used it 2 days ago for Father's Day when I was doing the smash burger run for what ended up being a lot more people than I thought there was going to be, and it was hot, and I was sweating. Did I mention it was Father's Day? Nevertheless, I used the air fryer in there, and it yielded some of the most averagely cooked frozen Checkers French fries that I got at the local Five and Dime, to kind of the dismay of everybody that was there for the Smash Burger Fest. So I don't know, maybe they've I don't know how many people have complained about it. Because again, I think sometimes people might not want to bitch so much because there is a decent capacity. Times it by 2 on this particular unit. Oh, by the way, there's a warming drawer to complete that middle shelf area. But it's all just pretty average to me. I'm a pretty discerning guy. So have you heard of anybody talking about average performance of air fryers on their Blackstone units?
I haven't, but I'd be interested to know. Like, they also recently came out with just a standalone air fryer, so I'd be curious on the performance of that. Yeah, it's like for camping. It's like a portable air fryer unit. But I'd be curious of the performance of that, like more dedicated air fryer to one that's built into a grill, because maybe, sometimes people, they just kind of overlook that feature and don't do it as well if it's in a combo with something else.
Was it a year or two ago that NextGrill brought out a smart gas grill, and then they also attached an air fryer to that? And we talked about it on the show with Ramsey Hawfield, and then I don't remember hearing anybody ever buy one or seeing a next generation of that a year or two later. Why are we attaching? I'm not an air fryer hater. There's a local radio Hall of Fame legend here in the Cleveland area that only cooks all of his food in the air fryer. Also steaks, which he says are just tremendous, and he won't go anywhere else except his air fryer steak. That's his prerogative. I would probably disagree on that. Why are we marrying up a air fryer to grills of every shape and size?
I don't know. I'm kind of with you. I don't get the air fryer thing too much. When I was testing like that Ninja wood fire outdoor grill, that also was an air fryer, and so I played around with a little bit. But I just don't find myself cooking a lot of foods that I'd prefer in the air fryer. I can only make so many fries with my burgers. Beyond that, it just doesn't. I don't know. Maybe I'm not the right person for it. It doesn't appeal to me. I don't use one inside either. It's not really an appliance that I use. I put it next to my bread maker and juicer. I don't know.
I was at a ThermoWorks event this past weekend for a culinary event and a class. Alton Brown was a guest speaker and attendee. He said in a panel discussion that air fryers are a fad. He thinks they'll fade away. Do you agree with that? You think we'll see the end of those in the next 5 years or less?
I think, despite new ones coming out, I think they already have a little bit. I feel like a few years ago, I just saw endless articles about air fryer recipes. And I don't feel like I see it quite as much anymore.
I unfortunately don't think that they're actually going to go anywhere. It's just one of those appliances that's going to be readily available at all the department stores 10 years from now, 20 years from now, because they made such an impact coming in. It was a bit of a mold breaker or a game changer. Blackstone also unveils a high-end set of griddles and pizza ovens and such, much higher price point than they were typically bringing things to market. You a fan of this?
I understand what they're doing with their strategy there, and I think it makes sense. Because if you remember, I think it was last year they started coming out with more with outdoor cabinetry. They've like a little awning that you can get. Just in general, moving up market. They have some like upmarket griddles that are pretty expensive to go with outdoor kitchens. So I think these go along with that. I mean, they look neat. I like the little details they put on them, and they're similar to what they have, just stainless steel, and then with like bronze finishings and make it look better.
Are you a buyer at the $2,000 price point for Blackstone, or are you looking at now a Traeger or a Rectech griddle or a Weber griddle or something at this point?
Yeah, it gets a little bit harder because then you get like Evo and things like that start
right.
breaking
Evo.
into that. So it's I think it's a harder place to compete. I like having a cheap griddle. I guess I don't really need that all the, that higher end stuff, but I do think there's a market for it.
Yeah, I mean,
are
that's
you-
like my roundabout comment by asking you the questions is I don't even know why Blackstone decided to go into the higher end price point market when they're owning mid to low end. Like they're living there. Everybody knows them. They're the Kleenex of the griddle. Why bother trying to throw? It almost seems like it's gratuitous to a certain degree.
Yeah, I wonder if they have such a stranglehold on the griddles. They have 80% of the market. They're looking for more areas to expand into, possibly. And outdoor kitchens for them. Maybe it is. Maybe it's a bad move though, and it gets them away from keeping their eye on the ball of just dominating that griddle market.
I've heard through highly reliable sources, rule number one of the show applies, of course, that Blackstone is going to bring a gas grill to market at some point. Have you heard anything similar? And if so, what do you think about the idea?
I haven't. I don't think so, but it would make sense. It's an easy transition. It's kind of like a reverse of what Weber did. They took, the body of their gas grill and threw a griddle top on it, and you could do the exact opposite at Blackstone. Just turn your griddle into a gas grill. So it's an easy thing to do, and they do have gas grills that are smaller. So I mean, we just talk about one area, outdoor kitchens, and more higher end places looking to expand. It's another area if they're just looking for growth.
Next Grill has added to their Oakford line, but not in a way that the market trend is typically showing things progress, especially when it comes to pellet cookers. They've done something that I actually support, which is unteching units. So what do you know about these?
Yeah, they're like pellet grills used to be. It has, it's an analog dial on it where you can, I forget if it's like 25 or 50 degree increments. You just dial it in. Has a built-in, temperature probe though, so you can still keep an eye on your food with a little display, but it doesn't connect to anything. It, just standalone, kind of an old-fashioned pellet grill. Make it easy to use.
The last thing I'm asking about tonight is Z Grills running a crazy promotion. I had mentioned at the top of the show that maybe the newbies and maybe even the intermediates might not be familiar with a brand called Z Grills. So if you have any brief history on who they are and why they are a player, give us a little bit of that insight and then tell us about the promo.
Yeah, they started off, I want to say 30 years ago, making pellet grills for other people, just white labeling them. Then they decided to create their own brand called Z Grills, I want to say 9 years ago. So now they actually have the manufacturing. So they just, at the manufacturer, create it wholesale prices this is what they say. At wholesale prices, they sell their grills under the Z Grills brand, and they can make them much cheaper because they have the actual manufacturing facility in China.
So what's this promo that they're running?
So it's buy one grill for $777, and then every 5 years you pay $100 shipping, and you get a free pellet grill for the next 50 years.
Wow. Winner. So $777 plus $100 every
Yeah,
time
for
they
each ship it. Yeah, so you get 10 free grills. So it's $1,777 for 11 grills.
Wow, that's insane. When do you have to trade back the one that they're refreshing, or all of a sudden you're going to have 100 grills in the backyard?
No, you just you know, throw it away, give it to a friend, whatever you want to do. It's yours. You just, you know, every 5 years, which is the average replacement cycle for a grill, you just get a new one to your door, and it's presumably the upgraded version of whatever one you purchased this year. So you know, you're set for the rest of your life for most of us.
How well do you think this is going to go?
Like
Conceptually, it sounds like the best thing ever.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never cooked on a Z grill, but there are, like, you know, if you want to believe internet forums and Reddit, there's people that swear by them and love them, and
They made Traeger grills for a while.
yeah, that's the
They were
story,
almost
yeah.
like unabashed after they stopped doing business together, still producing a pellet cooker that looked like a Traeger in a lot of identifying ways.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it seems on its surface, if you just want a pellet grill the rest of your life, like, it just seems like the way to go. You know, I would say jump on it and see what happens. You know, they could go out of business or change their name, I guess. But even you get 2 grills, like you're in you know, you're doing good.
Wes Wright is joining us here. By the way, I see people asking in the instant chat, they were probably dozing off, and then all of a sudden they heard free grill for the rest of your life, and they missed who we were talking about. Z, as in zebra. Z Grills is running a promotion where if you buy one now, you get a new one every 5 years. Is that what it was?
Yep. For 50 years.
For 50 years, right. So if you have $777 now, and then you can afford an extra $100 every 5 years, then you get a new grill every 5 years until 50 years from now. So that's what we're talking about. Wes Wright wrote about it. So Lance and Alan, you should be going over to cookoutnews.com 4 to 7 times a week and keeping up with what Wes is talking about. Wes, always appreciate the time, and we will see you in July.
Sounds great. Thanks, Greg.
That's Wes Wright. Banging it up as always with the great news, cookoutnews.com. I think it's not my company to run, but if I was Blackstone, I would kind of stay where I'm at. The gas grill maybe isn't a bad idea. By the way, who I'm hearing it from, really reliable. It's not Roger Daly, of course. He's already denied that fact, but maybe that's why he's not coming back on the show at the moment, because he doesn't want me to lead off with the question about, what about this gas grill? In any event, you go to cookoutnews.com and stay up with the latest happenings, business releases, copyrights, patents, trademarks, and all of that. And then you can learn more about Pits and Spits, right? Are you tired of settling for mediocre grilling experiences? Of course you are. It's time to step your game up.
Step your game up.
Get the ultimate flavor, get the ultimate cooker, bring it to the backyard barbecues. Pits and Spits charcoal grills offering the highest quality live fire cooking experience that you can get in the market today. Using either wood or charcoal, these solid fuel grills produce those classic flavors you're looking for when you have the time to fire up the grill and cook for family and friends. With a large adjustable fuel tray, you can raise and lower the fire to control and fine-tune the heat. Their take on the very popular Santa Maria style grill. Check them out at this custom website, pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central. That's pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central, and use promo code Charcoal Central. That's Charcoal Central for $150 off any charcoal grill. Pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central, and don't forget, as you're spelling it out, it's the double T on the pits and the spits.com/BBQ Central show. We're back to wrap the first hour right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
And we thank Wes Wright from cookoutnews.com for joining us last segment. Make sure you sign up for his Weekend Refuel newsletter that gives you all the highlights of the week that he's been writing about, and then you can always link back over and get the full story. If nothing else, it's worth signing up for that. All right, so let's go ahead and get this first hour tightly wrapped. In the first segment tonight, it was Tim Clowers making his debut. Cookitwithtim.com, his website. And then just finishing up here, last segment was our monthly visit with Wes Wright from cookoutnews.com, talking mostly about Blackstone, some about the new less techy Oakford on Next Grill, and then the promo that Z-Grill is running right now, where if you buy a specific model of Z-Grill that they determine for $777 every 5 years for the next 50, you can get a brand new grill. All you do is pay the $100 shipping cost, and you get an upgraded grill or a newer version of what would be the original cooker every 5 years. How could it not make money, right? Whatever. Take advantage of it now. And by the way, I would not take a dump on Z-Grill as far as manufacturing quality is concerned. For $800, it's going to be just as good as a lot of other stuff out there right now. They are the manufacturer. That's why they can do this. So, refresh your libations, and we will head to the second hour. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me!
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude!
Succulent fish. What?
He ate Tootsie or Wiener.
Oh, listen, Lavernius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
And just like that, we are into the second hour. It's the BBQ Central Show, where we talk about only the most important things that are going on over the course of the week in the barbecue and grilling industry. Sometimes that stretches into a week or two, maybe a month, maybe 6 months. If there's news cycle about it, I'm going to cover it. I might even give you an opinion on it, whether you want to or not, still to come on this show this evening. Fast Eddy Maurin, and I will recap my weekend trip to ThermoWorks in Utah. This show originating from
Palm City, USA, Cleveland.
We say good evening to those of you watching tonight through one of our video streaming platforms. Go to facebook.com/BBQ Central Show or twitter.com/BBQ Central Show. You can also watch on YouTube, which is youtube.com/@BBQ Central Show, where we have a new YouTube poll question of the week, and we're asking everybody this. Would you buy the solar-powered unit that Ritzwerk is making for pellet cookers? And currently 67% of you are saying no. But as we started the show, it was 90% no and 10% yes. So as the show has gone on, we're starting to bridge back to 50-50, which if you go back and listen to the tape, I said there's a very good chance we could be getting closer to Delta than keeping this far of a Delta going. So as I am once again correct about the show, because nobody else knows the show better than me other than John Solberg, the guy who makes the best of shows. So we'll see how the rest of the guests answer this question and what the rest of the voters, and then we'll give you the final count next week. Still to come coming up on the best moments of the Barbecue Central show in 10 minutes or less is coming Friday, episode 338, taking you back to June 7th of 2016. And this week we feature a quarterly guest, the CEO of Hardcore Carnivore and the creator of recipes housed over JessPryles.com, that being Jess Pryles, of course. Indeed, this was the very first time Jess had ever appeared on the show, and now she has grown not only into a recurring contributor, but as a fan favorite as well. Most of you know the story, but if you don't, this is a great way to get some of the backstory on Jess and how she's evolved from, and yes, right at the beginning of the interview, I did what all hack hosts do to an Australian native. I hit her with the "Good day, Jess." And really, if you just listen to this part of this show first before you listen to the best of, you'll hear what I'm saying. Just listening to the snicker that she let out as I said it, I mean, I'm surprised she even bothered to come back on the show after such nonsense. Nevertheless, this is how the relationship started. I count myself lucky to have her as a recurring guest on the show and as a friend outside of the show. So be ready for it on Friday. Don't forget you can subscribe to that show and this show's archives by visiting the website, thebbqcentralshow.com/subscribe. And if you want to hear a past guest or a segment that you think has been lost in the archives in a best of format, email our pal John Solberg and let him know what you would like to hear. It's John, Jon, at thebbqcentralshow.com, and let him know what you would like to hear. The famous Dave's All-Star Barbecue Series rolled into Colorado Springs, Colorado this past weekend, and winning the event, a team with the name of Ribs and Whiskey. And coming in reserve, team by the name of Meat Machine Barbecue. I like that name a lot. Both Ribs and Whiskey and Meat Machine have earned spots into the 2024 World Food Championship of the barbecue division. As we know, that's going to be held in November. One of my favorite cities ever, Indianapolis, Indiana. And remember, 90% of it is going to be inside. So where my huge concern was that Indianapolis in November could be both 60 or 70 degrees. It could equally be 6 or 7 degrees. But since it's going to be 90% inside, they'll figure it out years going forward as they build a relationship there with Indianapolis on how to get it 100% inside or move it to warmer weather months. But who cares about that? Ribs and Whiskey is going, and Meat Machine is also going. Well, they don't have to go, but they have earned the right to go if they so choose to do that. The next Famous Dave's All-Star Barbecue Series event is this coming Saturday, June 22nd, in Long Beach, California. That one is full. Most of them are full, actually, as they run through the remainder of August, which is when the season ends. By the way, El Paso, Texas, August 3rd, and Columbia, Maryland, August 24th, which does happen to be the last event in the series, both still showing as having one spot left open. So if you would like to fill those spots, both in El Paso and Columbia, Maryland, that's August 3rd and August 24th. Again, still one spot showing. I believe it's a $100 deposit, and then you just show up and have your hand at trying to win it. You can find out all the past results, the remaining schedule of future events by visiting worldfoodchampionship.com/allstars. Now, as you know, 2 weeks ago, I was in the Bahamas. That's right, out of the country. You are looking at a seasoned international traveler at this point. I have my passport. Not only that, I have my license passport. So if I want to make a quick trip up to the country of the north, which is Canada, for those of you not familiar with the geography of North America and where we are in Cleveland, I can do that now very easily. Just either go to Detroit and then go over the bridge into Windsor, or we can go over to Niagara Falls and go up that way. But I was in the Bahamas, and we were going over some great restaurants that I had there over at Atlantis. Here's a few things that I didn't get to a couple weeks ago, and I have a minute or so here before we get to Fast Eddie. Maybe this is just the way it is now, especially if you're on vacation somewhere, anywhere out of the country. Again, I'm not necessarily the world traveler I'm making myself out to be the last few minutes. But everywhere you went on property at Atlantis, it was all room card, number one, or credit card. So we just took the room key, put it all to the room. Everywhere on property, tip. Tip me for this, tip me for that. There's a Starbucks on the property, give me a tip. There's an ice cream place, give me a tip. There's a place that makes handmade soap. Give me a tip. Every restaurant you want to, which of course I don't have any problem tipping because that's what you customarily do there. But everything outside of the normal customary tipping. And we've had this conversation with the embedded correspondents. Rusty Monson specifically focused on the over asking for tips in this country. But obviously it's trickling out of this country and at least to the Bahamas. Because I have never seen an area ask for so many tips for so nothing. One of the fast and loose rules I have for tipping are this. If I'm ordering standing up, if I'm not going to sit down at any point, I'm probably not going to tip. Again, fast and loose, could be different depending on certain circumstances. But if I'm ordering a coffee, or if I'm buying a bracelet or a T-shirt, I'm not tipping you. You're lucky to get my money for the T-shirt or the soap that you made. So that's observation number one. This is not an observation. This actually happened. This will come to a surprise to many of you. I ate conch. Conch? Whatever the hell it is. I have to say, for as beautiful as I think it's conch, for as beautiful as the conch shell is, I think you're supposed to blow that thing for a tribal awakening or some shit. I don't know. But evidently there's something in that too. You know, like there's oysters in the shell and there's clams in the shell. There's conch meat in the conch shell. I have to say, delicious. Had it as a conch salad. There was conch, fried conch. I mean, anything fried is typically good. So I had that. And then this is the last thing I want to mention here before we get to Fast Eddie. I'm going to bite into a little bit of his time. Everybody knows I'm a fan of premium hand-rolled cigars. I'm talking specifically now to the casino that's in the Royal Tower on the property of Atlantis. There was at least a 4 or 5 tower cigar humidor. I looked in it. All the brands that are in there are well-known Cuban cigars. Here's the problem. Every Cuban cigar in that humidor, fake as fuck. How do I know this? Number one, I'm an expert. Number two, I know more experts than me being an expert to confirm my suspicion. What was the telltale sign? You tell me. No, never mind. I'll tell you. Every single one of those Cuban cigars in that humidor was wrapped in cellophane. Guess what? Real Cuban cigars are never, ever wrapped in cellophane. Clue number one that it's a fake. If your buddy comes home from a vacation and says, hey, got these Cuban cigars, and he kicks them over and they're in that plastic shit, they're not real. That's a well-known numero uno. That's fake. Also, if you get them in a box and there's glass on the top of the box, number two, they're just not made like that in Cuba. Habanos does not make that. So I looked at the lady and I said, hey, are these real Cubans? And she said, but of course. I said, why are they wrapped in cellophane? She said, what are you talking about? I said, okay, well, guess what? Those are fake and I'm out. So if you're going to Atlantis and you see the cigars and you think they're Cubans and you really want to have one, just know you're buying something that's fake. If you're okay with that, you're okay with that, fine. But I'm here to tell you, don't smoke them. I went the whole week and didn't smoke a fake Cuban cigar. Why would I want to do that. I barely want to buy real Cuban cigars, let alone fake ones. She's telling me. These are real. Oh, yeah? Dummy. Go tell your boss they're fakes, and I know why. And I'm going to tell everybody when I get home to America. Fast Eddy's ready to go. Before we get to him, I'll talk to you quickly about the Franklin Barbecue Pit, a backyard version of the famed pits built by Aaron Franklin for his renowned barbecue restaurant in Austin, Texas. What you have with the Franklin Barbecue Pit is a deeply thought out and refined version of the old propane tank-style cookers that Aaron built for his restaurant, Franklin Barbecue in Austin, Texas. Stylistically, it reflects the kind of bare-bones industrial handmade aesthetic that he loves, as in the patina and the way the build allows you to see the welds and craftsmanship. The schematics of the Texas-style offset barbecue pit are relatively simple, right? Even if the things that happen inside reflect complicated dynamics of physics and chemistry, there's very few moving parts here. Numerous and massive differences divide this Franklin pit from the average barbecue smoker sold at the big box store. The Franklin pit, made of primarily quarter-inch thick American-made steel. Anything that sees heat is engineered to be incredibly strong and should last at least a century or more if cared for properly. The thickness of the steel guarantees professional-grade heat retention, a critical component in making great barbecue. Franklin pits can be found at barbecue specialty stores in select regions of the country. If you, the listener, are such an owner of such a store and you wish to become a certified Franklin dealer, visit franklinbbqpits.com and fill out the dealer form. If you're a listener of the show and you don't live by a certified dealer, you can also visit franklinbbqpits.com and purchase a pit. Franklin Pits will ship a Franklin pit right to the bottom of your driveway. How about that? So, either or. If you're just a consumer and you don't live by a dealer, buy it right on the website. If you are somebody that buys or sells pits, or you're a current barbecue supply store and you want to start carrying a line of higher-end offset pits, then this is what you want to do. franklinbbqpits.com, and then fill out the dealer form. We're back with Fast Eddy right after this. Stick around. I'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rampey. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Pit Barrel Cooker, the most unbelievable outdoor cooking device on the planet. Currently available in 3 sizes. If you're a beginner, if you're a professional, doesn't matter. Cooker you want to add to the arsenal, visit pitbarrelcooker.com and tell them the Barbecue Central Show sent you. My next guest is one of the pellet cooker pioneers, creating the very popular FE line of cookers. He also makes a very successful line of wood pellets and always tinkering with ways to make barbecue and grilling as an industry better through innovation. He has been appearing on this show since it was in podcast form only, dating all the way back to 2007, if you can believe it. Last October, he was inducted into the most important Hall of Fame ever, the Barbecue Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame. And this May, he was voted into the second most important Hall of Fame ever, the Barbecue Hall of Fame. We race to the hotline and welcome back our pal, Fast Eddy. Eddy, appreciate you joining me here this evening. Look at that. Let me blow it up. There's the Barbecue Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame ring. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Do you just wear that around the streets and pick up tail like crazy?
No, I don't want to get. The Kansas City Chiefs got their Super Bowl rings this week, so I don't want them to mistake it.
Yes, we don't want to. We don't want to have them feel a little disenfranchised that you're rolling around with a much cooler ring that they are. We have a YouTube poll question of the week, Eddy, before we get rolling here tonight, which is: would you buy a solar-powered pellet cooker that Ritzworks is selling? Yes or no?
I said yes.
Yes. All right. So 35% of the voting public now saying yes, 65%. No, I don't want to diverge too quickly off a topic here, but It's been toyed around with. There was a company a couple of years ago called Lion Energy that really just made auxiliary power that you could plug into. They had solar panels. They really tried to make an entrance into live fire, and it didn't really seem to go anywhere after 6 months, maybe a year. And I don't remember the last time anybody's mentioned it. Now we have Mark Rivaldi on the show, Rivalsky on the show last week, and this is something that kind of goes on the top of a pellet cooker with built-in solar panels, and you're plugging into that versus your home. Is this just like good concept, but when rubber meets the road, it's not going to take off? Or do you see this getting legs at some point?
I think people are looking for auxiliary type stuff. I mean, you're seeing that the power packs, to carry with you are becoming popular. Green energy, folks are getting more and more into that. People are wanting to live off grid more. I think that time's coming more than it did when those previous folks were out there. I'm a tailgater. I would love to have a unit to put on my tailgate trailer, set out in the parking lot. And right now I've got a deep cycle battery with me that I use an inverter. So it'd be really cool to be out there and be running on that. So yeah, I could see it. Evidently, yeah.
As I mentioned in the intro, this May, you are selected to go into the BBQ Hall of Fame this year. They trot out the top 10 2 weeks before selecting the actual class, whatever they call the top 10 final names, whatever it is. Thoughts on making the top 10 initially?
Oh, well, and especially after you hear there was like 83 or 86 people submitted.
Yeah.
And then to make the top 10 and to be able to do that the second year in a row was phenomenal. They sit there and talk about a lot of folks. So it was it was a great honor, definitely. And then of course, then getting voted in was, unbelievable.
As far as the top 10 is concerned, I've talked to some folks and they said, secretly, we'd really not even know that we're on the top 10 because then it's like we're so close. And then if we're not ultimately carried over the threshold, we feel a little disappointed. Do you have any feeling like that at all? Or it's good to be knowing that you're on the top 10, whether you get in or not?
Yeah, I don't know if you know this or not, but I was on that committee for 3 years.
I didn't know that. When was that?
It was 12, 13, and 14.
Oh, was that before I was really getting my way with them, or was I just letting them have it at that point?
I don't remember. The one I spent a lot of time on was Henry Perry. I was trying to find his grave where he was buried and stuff like that. But back then, the process I feel like today is way much better than they did back then. People write just a paragraph and send in, and you're trying to choose. I've got these American Royal people who aren't really in the barbecue world, and I'm one of the few barbecue people sitting there in the room, and I'm having to explain to them what that paragraph meant and more about those people, why they're worthy, and feel like I'm having to be an educator in the process. And I really like they're moved it a whole lot further forward than it was a tough deal back in the day. And actually my name came up, and anytime my name came up, I pulled it out of the hat. I didn't feel like it was right. It wasn't right to be on the committee. I didn't think so. Now some other people have done it, and I'm not going to name names, but I didn't feel like it was right to, get nominated or somebody put in for you on there, and here you are working the committee. That just wasn't right. I felt like if it was going to happen, it was going to happen generically, and I wasn't going to be in the middle of the process.
When you were on there, was it still the 3 categories: pitmaster, businessman,
Yes.
and celebrity or whatever? Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
For you personally, does being selected for the Hall of Fame confirm your work in the industry has been accepted and appreciated, or you not really care about any of that?
Oh, no. I feel like it definitely has been noticed. And, I feel, I feel like it definitely, has credence to it. So I'm very happy.
From a business standpoint, will this help the FE brand or Cook Shack or whatever in any way, you think?
Oh, I fully believe so. You're gonna, and I don't know why other people haven't done it, but the American Royal sends you the logo, and you got to send it back how you want to use it, and they got to okay it. But I want to put it. We want to use it in our marketing, and so you have to submit how you want to use the Hall of Fame logo with them so they can okay. But we're going to put it on. We're going to try to put it on the products and lots of things. And I really feel like everybody should, because it brings credence to the Hall of Fame also.
So if I got voted in and I wanted to like stick it back here, I would have to ask them to use it like that, because I assume it's like trademarked or whatever.
Yeah, they want to know how you're gonna display it or use it or what you're gonna use it in. So, yeah. Now, my understanding was when Blues Hog used it when he got voted in Legacy last year, and they used it on some advertising for some products. So I didn't see that, but I've heard that's what they did. So.
Did getting in, whether it was this year or not, but getting in at some point matter to you? Would there have been a disappointment in your career if you were to hang it up and not end up being in the Hall of Fame?
No. I mean, I think everything comes with time, and maybe it wasn't your time, for that to be, and that's why I'm really happy to see the Legacy thing. So people who, no matter what, it means something, for those folks to get in there. Really happy to see that. One of the things I do, I go pretty regularly. Of course, I'm knee deep in the off-road industry, and I go to their Hall of Fame inductions. And I know several of those Hall of Famers, raced with their Hall of Famers. The guys were in racing, but they got a whole bunch of segments of that industry. The racers are just one little part of it. So very cool. Big. I mean, their induction. I would love to see our induction ceremony be something even a tenth of what theirs is, because they have a banquet. 550 people are there. It's a huge industry. Phenomenal night.
Other inductees include Daniel Bennett, BBQ, Steve Grotti, and Rick Brown. Do you have any thoughts about any of them, or any anecdotes or stories you care to share?
Well, I don't know Rick very well at all, just by, seeing his stuff and his books and all. I'm, not from that Northwest area. Danielle, you talk about one of the hardest working women in barbecue. I mean, she put Traeger on the map in Canada. And she's been an unbelievable person for them. That is, I feel like thank goodness she's got some I don't think they give her near the recognition she needs for what she does for them. Yeah, she's well worthy what she's doing. Steve Grotti, I do not know his story very well, other than just what I've read about it. So, I can't really say one way or another about him. And then who else was it?
You.
Yeah, me. So,
if I could give you one unilateral vote to get one of the remaining 6 people into the Hall of Fame, who would you pick and why?
That's pretty tough, because there's two on there that I would be, and I don't like when somebody asks you a question and you say you got to pick one, and you bail out on 2. So I'm gonna
so pick
I'm
one.
not gonna do that. I'm gonna pick one, and
right.
I'm gonna say David Close.
Yeah. All right. I had in the monthly embedded correspondent, worked out weird. on the time this year, because usually we have our segment Tuesday, and then we prognosticate on what's going to happen that next day on Wednesday when everything's officially announced. And I said that, here's who I think is going to be put in by the voting members. But then my personal list had both you and Dave Close in there. I've owned a close pit for 7 or 8 years of my life when I was first getting into the barbecue scene. And I've talked to Dave many times. He's been on the show a couple times. And I know what he's done in the offset world and barbecue world in general. But why would you pick him among all that's what makes him stand up?
Well, one, I have a really place in my heart for manufacturers. Okay. And people who, especially those who build cookers, you don't realize how hard that is you spend all your time, messing with cookers, airflow, how they work, what they do. Then you're building a reputation with them, yourself. And then you got to get out there and market. You got to wear all kinds of hats. And especially back in those days that you don't have the internet like you have today. I tell these people today, you don't realize how easy you got it.
Yeah.
I had to work off newspapers and magazines and, everything in the world, try to figure out how to get it out there, and travel. Having Dave did that. Dave pounded that road, and I just got a special passion, in my heart for like him who's done the same thing I did. So, and he kept the offset alive,
mm-hmm.
really. After Oklahoma Joe's had their debacle and things like that. I mean, Dave Close, he nothing too big, nothing too small, nothing too wacky. He would try to do anything and make it work. So, he's an industry icon for sure.
Where do you think the cooker, when we're talking about the FE line, where does the cooker line sit right now? What's still available for sale?
Well, we went to India for the PG 1000, to get it cheaper. We had a debacle with the controller. I'm going to announce it here on your show because we haven't said it yet, but it's going to be this week. It should be this week, but we're going to have Fireboard on it.
Really?
So yeah.
Nice.
So there's a little news that Fireboard's going to be now on the PG series of grills for Cook Shack.
How are you integrating that? Obviously we know what the Fireboard is as far as remote thermometering, but how are you taking advantage of it?
Well, it has control capability of PI. It's a PID loop, but you adjust the PID yourself. I mean, that's what we've been doing for quite a bit, was writing the software how we want it to operate. And I'm going to tell you, it makes that PG 1000 smoke like a choo-choo train. It's unbelievable all the time. It's impressive what that grill does with that controller on it. I'm going to be real happy to showcase that here very, very, very shortly. So, it's of course, then you can have all kinds of, you can go up to 6 probes on it if you want. It's crazy what it'll do.
Is there any reason to use the ambient probe at this point because of how the grill would operate normally anyway? You would just want to maybe use all 6 probes to take internal meat temperatures. I'm
not a probe guy,
Well, of course you're not.
I'm a touchy feely cook. I'm an old school cook. I want to bend ribs. I want to poke that brisket, and pork and stuff, I'm not a numbers guy with, I know about what a reference timing is, but it's still going to come down to it, you're still got to handle it and decide whether or not it's there. That's the cool thing about barbecue. I love old school cooking.
Do you have any other grills in development?
Grill wise, no, we've been messing with the pizza side of stuff, that we just a few weeks ago released that backyard pizza oven, which is super cool. And then the commercial pizza oven, working, getting that out there. And We're doing pretty well in the mobile food world with it, but I'd sure like to get more brick and mortar stuff going with it. And we've got some R&D projects more in the pizza line of thing. The pizza world's huge, also, but there's a lot of people in that, but I really feel like, there's so many people in there that love solid fuel in the pizza world, and everybody's supplementing with gas. And with the way that those two worlds are colliding right now, everybody taking their gas valves away in these cities. And New York just did a big deal. They wanted everybody to reduce their emissions by 75% in the 5 boroughs on the solid fuel stuff. They're all scrambling up there to put those flue scrubbers on their ovens and things. And hey, all you got to do is go call me up and get the our pizza oven, and I do more than 75%. We drop it way down, and I'm going to have you the exact same pie you're making now.
What kind of capacity are you looking at? I don't know, like how many pies
Well,
Jesus Christ, sorry, Ed. Cat just jumped up
right.
here. How many pies are in a normal like industry cooker going in? But how do you compare to that?
Well, on the wood-fired pies and all, I do a New York style pizza, and we run about 3 minutes and 15 seconds at 700 degrees. So, and my double stack where I have the two of them stacked, so I can run on my food trailer, I can run 35 pies an hour there. So, but that's without a cook. See, you put it in and you shut the door and set a timer. You walk away from it. A normal wood-fired pizza oven, they had to have a guy spinning those pies.
Right.
And you don't spin the pies with this. This thing cooks unattended.
Why?
So,
how do you get it to do that?
Airflow.
And
It's
pellet driven.
It all has to. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it all has to do with the design of the oven, is what it does, and that's the key. I mean, when you can start taking labor out of the factor, it's a big deal, and make a good or better pie, and we can do that.
From a space consumption standpoint, is it equivalent to what they're using now, or are they freeing up more space if they were to switch over to yours?
The big dome ovens that they're putting in, I'm probably the same footprint if you wanted to run the same amount of pies. If I put a couple of double stacks in there, but I would save you a buku ton of money on fluing it. Okay. I mean, direct venting it. I also have we've already got UL and NSF, and we have the EPA 202 testing, so we don't put out any grease laden vapors. So that's why it can go into a mobile food unit without fire suppression in most places. In Oregon and Washington State, they don't care. They just decide whatever they want you to do up there. But most places, follow that testing rule. And if you don't make grease laden vapors, then you can direct vent.
What kind of money are you looking at compared to a traditional oven? Similar?
No, less.
Less.
We're less money.
And is it like a pellet hopper? Because obviously, I mean, people don't want to be like spoon feeding in pellets or whatever.
No, it's got hopper on it. Yeah, the ones we have now, they got hoppers, and actually it takes 45 minutes to get it hot enough to ready to start flinging pies. Because we got a 1-inch thick Fiberman stone in there. So, but after that, I mean, if you start slowing down, you can shut ovens down. You can run just on 1 or 2, or if you got, it depends on how many ovens you got. We're working on a bigger deck oven thing, but I don't see it's going to be real interesting. It's going to work probably more like a traditional deck oven then is probably what it's going to do. Right now, our biggest competitor is that Turbo Chef, that high temp round Turbo Chef oven that has heating elements in the top and the bottom, and supposed to cook everything the same. And we kicked the butt out of Turbo Chef with this oven. Yeah.
So how do you get it to the next level? You go to like the pizza shows and all that stuff, or what?
Well, we tried the pizza show right off the get-go, and that was wrong. Because if you don't have a reputation right off the bat, with a customer base, nobody's really going to even look at you. But once you've got a customer base and you got video and you got success stories and you got people making money, I mean, that's why I put my mobile unit in business in 2019, my 451 pizza. And it's got really good, solid numbers, you know, and what that kid's making on that truck. I have a full-time employee on it.
Oh, yeah?
And, yeah, he's making a really nice living off of it. And I just watched a reel tonight. I have this old couple redid a camping trailer out of Alabama, drove up and seen me one night. And we were at Transport Brewery, and he told me about his camper project and all. And sure enough, he did. He bought just a single oven, though. I tried to get him into a double. I said, you really need a double to run the volume. Oh, I'm just going to put one in there. But they've been open a year, and they're seem to be really happy, and you know, and made it a year in the business. And it's pretty cool to and they did it all themselves and restored this old trailer, you know, an old camping trailer, and he's got it direct vented in there. And it was really cool. It's over on, if you go to Cook Shack Inc. On Insta and look it up, it's on there. So, and also on our Facebook page too at Cook Shack Inc.
If you go to the website, like if there's a business listening, they want to start converting into pizza, or they want to ditch whatever they're using now, like what's the best way to get a hold of you to start this travel down the path?
You know, through social media, catch us on Facebook or Instagram, or you call down to Cook Shack or www.cookshack.com, you know, get a hold of us. And I invite everybody, come to Kansas City and work with my guy on 451 Pizza. If you want to get into the food truck business and make money and see a great lifestyle compared to most food truckers, pizza is unbelievably great lifestyle for mobile food.
All right.
So you don't have those big hoods running, sucking that hot air. I mean, it's hot in there, don't get me wrong, but you know, having those hoods running, you can't keep air conditioning in them. You can't, and in the summertime, in the wintertime, it's even cold because you got to use that for your makeup air. You know, the lifestyle of a pizza man is 10 times better than a taco guy, I'll promise you.
We're talking with BBQ Hall of Famer Ed Fast Eddy Maurin, and you can find his cooker, pelletcooker.com, and then, of course, cookshack.com, and follow him on social media. And then the pizza stuff, obviously, is we're talking about here as we close the interview. So if you're interested, get a hold of him there, and he can show you a great pizza lifestyle, and you can get out of this food truck nonsense that you're living right now. Ed, always appreciate you coming on the show and the conversation. And continued success on the pizza cookers.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate all you do for us.
It's Fast Eddy right there. Barbecue legend. And now we can say unequivocally BBQ Hall of Famer, of course. So if you are interested in that pizza stuff that he was talking about, cookshack.com, or follow Eddy on, he's at Cook Shack Inc. on Instagram. You can send messages there, and then we start that process. All right, listen up, gang. Our friends over at Big Papa Smokers have something special just for you listeners of this show. Whether you're a seasoned barbecue professional or you're just a backyard hack like me, you can get all of your sauces, rubs, and materials, essential accessories right from BigPapaSmokers.com. Here's the cherry on top. Big Papa's offering the listeners of the Barbecue Central Show an exclusive deal. Use the promo code REMPE at checkout. That's REMPE. And you can get $10 off your next $50 purchase of rubs, sauces, or accessories. Imagine the possibilities. Evaluate your ribs with Big Papa's Sweet Money, or add Big Papa's Desert Gold to your chicken, or better yet, pick up Double Secret and put it on your steak. Head on over to BigPapaSmokers.com and start shopping today. And don't forget to use the promo code REMPE at checkout, REMPE, and claim your $10 off your next order of $50 or more. Also, don't forget to check out Big Papa's full line of recipes at cookingwithbigpapa.com. And, of course, follow him on social media platforms for amazing recipes and reels. the ThermoWorks recap because you want it. Stick around because we'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Craig Rimpey.
And we thank Fast Eddy for joining us last segment. This portion of the show being brought to you by JRE Tobacco, a family-run brand, vertically integrated manufacturer known for its authentic Corojo tobacco, grown at the JRE Tobacco Farms in Honduras. And now they have a new offering, Cameroon Reserva. How about that? The first Cameroon Puro known in the industry, which consists, of course, of a Cameroon wrapper, Cameroon binder, and fillers. Cameroon grown by the Aroa family in the Hamastron Valley of Honduras, which is their newest luxury line. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out yet, then make sure that you're asking your retailer for JRE Tobacco products, of course. So last Thursday and Friday, then coming back Saturday, I was at the ThermoWorks culinary event in class, first and foremost. Huge thank you to Randy Owen and the entire ThermoWorks team for a great event, top-notch. I'm shocked I got an invite, to be honest, but honored and happy that I could make it. Randy knows how to put on a great event that mixes education and fun, bringing in a unique group of people across all industries and professions to help them understand what ThermoWorks does and how they operate in the spaces that they play in. So, Randy, once again, thank you very much for having me. Much appreciated. So I flew into Utah this past Thursday, went from Cleveland to Denver for a connection. That went smoothly. And then from Denver onto Utah is where it all went bad. We got on the plane. We were 20 feet away from the runway to go Denver SLC. Of course, I used to be in the private aviation sector. I was the director of sales for a private operator, 50-passenger regional jets for a couple of years. So part of the process was tracking your jets as they were flying the customers around. So I have the live ATC or live air traffic control app on my phone. So whenever we go out now, you know, with the big airports, Atlanta, Chicago, O'Hare, the big ones, like they have multiple towers, multiple approaches and departures and stuff. So if you don't know exactly what runway you're going off of, that's not like common chatter that you have with the pilot and the airline attendants, things like this. But in Cleveland, you know, there's only one tower. So I punch up, see if it's up, and it is. And Denver was the same way. It's a pretty big airport, but they only had one tower, so everything consolidated there at one point, both the landings and the takeoffs. So as we're taxiing, I hear United 1521, the tower comes back up. We need a minute or two. We have a steering malfunction. So we wait a couple minutes. As soon as I heard that, I was almost immediately thinking that we were going nowhere. He came back on a couple minutes later, United 1521 tower. We need a tug back to the gate. No! So we had to wait 30 minutes for the tug to get out there because I had to get the special one, not just pushes you back, but this one kind of backs into it and then lifts it, the whole front of the plane up and then drags you to the gate. And then we get out of the gate. Well, in the meantime, I'm feverishly trying to make another ticket to get to Salt Lake City because I don't know how they're going to possibly handle a rebook out of Denver, and it didn't sound like it was going to go very well. So 4 hours later, the plane takes off that I'm on now, going to Salt Lake City, which ends up having me land around 7:15 local time there. all the while 9:30 where I'm at usually. So I missed everybody getting together at ThermoWorks for the reception and all the celebrities and all the food. Get into a cab, get my way up there. So I did, luckily, and thank goodness for this, I did end up getting there much later and missed all the stuff that I just mentioned. However, my guy and the now singular host of the Pitmasters podcast, the Anthony Lujan, took me to a great pizza spot where we were able to chop it up for a few hours about the industry, doing shows, life in general. Very nice guy, and appreciated his hospitality and availability to me while I was there through those 2 days. So, Anthony, thank you very much. And by the way, Pitmasters podcast is actually going to switch it up, and they are going to a live format.
We'll do it live.
That's right, Bill. Pitmasters podcast is going to be going to a live format.
We'll do it live.
Yes, live. So be on the lookout for that. So Thursday was kind of a wipeout, holding the pizza aside with the Anthony Lujan. Friday, we're up early. We're at an all-day event, ThermoWorks headquarters. Lots of people I did not know, not in the live fire space, but the folks that I did know. A treat for me to meet them in person for the first time. And by the way, the people I'm about to mention have all been on the show at least once. Some of them are recurring guests or have been on the show a number of times. Girls Can Grill founder Christy Vanover. No shade on Christy because she can't help it, but shockingly short. Like shockingly short. Not in any bad way, but really boosted my overall value of myself. I felt extra manly standing next to Christy. So if you are following her on social media, you saw the Instagram stories that she was posting. So the first picture, I'm down, like crouched all the way down to her level. And I'm like, now take one where we're both standing up for real. And I felt like Dikembe Mutombo standing up against, any common point guard. So great to hang out with Susie all Friday and through dinner that night. And then getting to talk about all kinds of nonsense, food and life in general. And then a big treat for me, and they drove 4 hours up north from where they currently live in Utah, Susie and Todd Bullock. How about that? Triple T and Susie B making the jaunt up the ThermoWorks. So I got to meet them for the first time in person, and really just as nice and genuine as they are on the show. By the way, I don't know if she wants me to mention this, and I'm not here to browbeat anybody or do peer pressure or just be misogynistic in certain ways. Let me do this.
A Barbecue Central Show exclusive news update.
Greg Rempe reporting from the breaking news desk here in Cleveland, Ohio, the city that breaks the most live fire breaking news across the country, nay, the globe. Gang, Susie Bullock is sitting on a finished book, except she's not turning it in to the editor. What are you doing? Susie, you've done all the hard work. You wrote it. You tested recipes. Everything's together and finished. You got to get it to an editor. I don't know what editors do. And then you got to be like real close to the finish line. But the hard work is over. Don't stop short. Now, girlfriend, let's get it over the goal line. And the browbeating start tonight, June 18th, 2024, that I want to hear monthly updates. When you show up here quarterly, I want quarterly updates on where the book progress is. I want to see something coming out. If it's not next spring, and it's probably not going to be next spring because it's already summer, 2026, spring of 2026, we should be seeing a Susie Bullock book, a Hey Grill Hey book. It's unfathomable that somebody would have done all of this work and gotten it to the 5-yard line, and you're not going to kneel down now. We're not going to run the clock out. We got to get the ball over the goal line, Susie. So here I am providing motivation for you and telling you, don't you want your kids to be able to pick up a book 40 years from now when we're all gone from the earth and say, you know, my mom took the time to leave this book for me and my siblings, a legacy. Susie, let's go. We're so close. It's me and you together. We're going to push it over the goal line. And if not, it's just going to be unmerciful verbal lambastings for me from here going forward. So if for nothing else, to forego the beatings, as my dad used to say as we were growing up, beatings will commence until morale improves. Also, I got to meet the co-creator of Vindulge.com, Mary Kressler. Very excited to meet her, see her, talk to her. All been on the show, as I said, at least once, and some of those many times. Of course, big treat for me to meet a guy named Bradley Robinson. You know him as Chud. And I also got to meet Jeremy Yoder in real life. Between the two, Bradley, taller, way taller than I expected. I don't know exactly what I expected, but physically, I was like, wow, he's very tall. Very funny guy. Jeremy, cerebral as he appears in his videos. It's not a put on. I also met Dan from Learning to Smoke over the weekend for the first time. So all people I got to see in person, which is great. And then there was this guy, Clint Cantwell, El Presidente, over at AmazingRibs.com. He's also shockingly tall, taller than Chud actually is, but always a surprise visually to me when I see how tall Clint is, especially since I'm typically the tallest person in the group, but Clint has at least 4 inches on me minimum. And we have hung out in various states of toxicity over the years, so it's not the first time I've seen Clint. Such a inspiration for me to see that these folks are still out here grinding and doing all this stuff. And then, of course, Elton Brown was the keynote speaker at this event. And honestly, I never had a huge fandom of Elton when he was doing Good Eats and subsequent shows. I always seemed to be more fan of the a-holes of the Food Network back in the day, like Bobby Flay and some of the others. But he gave a great speech on heat and temperature and why they're different. This is going to be released, as I had mentioned, in a podcast bonus segment at some point. But again, I'm a little iffy on the sound. There was a leak, if you will, of ThermoWorks, which is the new product coming out. Maybe sometime in August or the summer. Nothing definitive yet. Also, nothing definitive on pricing. But they're going to be releasing something you won't believe. Maybe you'll
Central
believe.
Show exclusive news update.
Greg Rempe reporting from the breaking news desk here in Cleveland, Ohio, the city that breaks the most live-fire breaking news across the country, nay, the globe. That's right. Another breaking news in as many minutes, which is this. ThermoWorks is now going to be releasing a wireless probe thermometer called the RFX. And by the time it's all rolled out, it will be an entire ecosystem of wireless thermometers and other stuff, ancillary things that take humidity, and it's one for a sous vide machine, and then you have the meat probes, and so it's going to be a whole ecosystem of things. And one thing to note right off the rip, the probe on this wireless probe thermometer, very thin, much thinner than the meter, of course, the big hate on the meter. Well, I mean, there's just so much hate on the meter. But the huge gauge hole that the meter leaves in there is unattractive, to say the least. This one, much, much thinner. Also, the other item to note is that you will need the RFX gateway to use the wireless thermometer. So unlike the other companies that have tried to push through the hood of the grill when it's down, this one says, hey, right off the bat, you need to have the gateway to achieve the results that you really want, which is distance, number one, and then number two, or perhaps 1B, no dropping or disconnection of signal. You can pair multiple probes to the gateway, and if you have a neighbor that also has a system set up, only the probes that you pair to your gateway, even if there's other ones within distance to your gateway, there will not be any cross-contamination of Tim's and John's registered probes. They're not going to cross over onto each other's gateways or anything like that. Only the ones that you pair to your gateway are going to be the ones that are showing up. So you can pair multiple probes to the gateway, and there won't be any cross-contamination of other probes getting tossed into your readouts. So the concept is good. The distance appears to be really good, and I've talked to some folks who have tested it. They can vouch for its ability to get through barriers without dropping signal. And, you know, the major complaint of everything else like this on the market is I go inside and it drops, or I put the grill lid down and then I go inside and go 2 rooms away and I lose connection. I'm going to have Randy Owen on the show at some point here once we get a firmer launch date so we can talk about it a little bit more in depth. So stay tuned for more information on that. Lastly, if you will indulge me, there were 3 people there that have been closely associated with the show over the years. 3 of the biggest names since I got into this thing around 2006, that being Dr. Barbecue Ray Lampe, Harry Sue, Slap Your Daddy Barbecue, and Tuffy Stone from Cool Smoke. I can't tell you how lucky I am to be able to just sit down with these guys in a group or individually and just talk to them as a peer. I don't see them in person a lot, but when we do, for me, always special. There's a lot of very gracious, helpful, inspirational things that they do. And as I posted on my Instagram account Saturday when I was heading back home at the airport, I'm in the transport vehicle with these 3 guys, Dr. Barbecue Tuffy and Harry Sue, and we're just chopping it up about all kinds of things. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I can't believe that I'm in a van with these 3 guys right now and I'm part of the conversation. It's a moment in time that I won't forget. So to Harry and Ray and Tuffy, thank you for being a part of the show over the years, and I hope we can see each other again in person sooner than later. And as we bring this recap to a close, ThermoWorks in a great spot in Utah. I did make it to the great city of Utah, obviously. ThermoWorks is a very impressive company. They are really one of the leaders in the thermometering and temperature and all that stuff industry, really pushing the envelope, trying to continue to innovate. There's a lot of great current leadership. There's a lot of great leadership that's coming up to take place when secession needs to happen. And by the way, not that you ever will, if you get a chance or you get invited to go to Randy Owen's house there in, is it American Fork, Utah? I mean, Randy, congratulations. What a house. Holy moly. In the backyard, and the pool, and the cooking area, and the relaxation area out in the back of the house. Holy moly. I've been in a lot of nice places. I've been in some industries that have a lot of money. I've been in some private jet hangars that would make your eyes bleed. They're so egregious in their spendings. This house is one of the nicest ones I've been in, without a doubt. So, Randy, you keep a great house. Very enviable, but this guy is as humble as it gets. And he is an expert. He knows exactly what time it is. He knows what's going on. So, not only is he a great person to talk to, would probably be a great mentor to anybody that would want to be smart enough to ask him to mentor, or if he does mentorship program, and then is a great family person and has a great business. So by all accounts, the folks at ThermoWorks, great people, and it starts from the leadership and works down. Everybody there is great. So had a great time, got back, no delays, of course, because why delay when you're on the way back home? And we got a free ThermoPen 1, which was great. And we got our ice bath kit so we can make proper ice baths. And I can tell you now how to make proper ice baths to make sure that you're getting your calibrations done correctly. First class trip. I'm not somebody that really likes to kiss and tell, but in this event, because they are getting ready to release officially a new wireless probe to the market, I did want to tell you about that. So There you have it. All right. We'll get ready to wrap up the show here. I think I'm all caught up on reads here. That's right. So we will wrap up the show. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Let's get back to a guy who has more experience giving you his opinion than he actually has cooking. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. Quickly looking through the chat here to see if there's anything I want to address or not. What is this? So this is going back to the Z-Grill stuff. Lance Owens is writing in, in my harsh environment, that may be the real deal. We get down in the 60s at night and in the 80s during the day. I could throw it away and not care. Lance, let's hold the throwing away of a pellet cooker to the side just for a moment and allow me to answer your harsh environment where getting down into the 60s at night and 80s during the day. How about fuck off? Tell me you live in paradise without telling me you live in paradise. Oh, okay. It gets down into the 60s at night. Lance, how do you live? Should I send my full and replete winter gear post haste due west so you can make it through these 60-degree nights? And do I need to send my shorts and tank tops for you to muddle through the 80-degree days? I don't know how you do it. It is men like you, Lance, that are beacons of hope that someday I could possibly turn into the man that you are, to suffer through 60-degree nights and 80-degree days. As you put it, harsh environment. Lance, come on. Anyway, jump on that Z-Grill thing, and then we can... That's how you can do it. You can get on the show by doing the Z-Grill promotion. I'll have you on the show every 5 years as we talk about your new cooker. A guaranteed way to get on in every 5 years, Lance. Hurry up and get on that Z-Grill promotion before they take it down. You can be my Hawaiian embedded correspondent, Cone Z-Grills. Hey, all the way back in the first hour, we had Tim Clowers for the first time. He's a big fan of the Schwenk Grill, by the way. Good to hear. Then we had Wes Wright from cookoutnews.com. We talked about Blackstone a little bit. We talked about Z-Grill's promotion. We talked about the unteching of some pellet cookers by Next Grill. And then the second hour, we had Eddy Maurin, a new 2024 BBQ Hall of Famer. And he's got some pizza ovens that he's looking to sell that could change your life and make you blow out way cleaner exhaust than any other cookers currently doing. No need for chimney sweepers or whatever, chimney cleaners. Forget that. By the way, as I'm looking over here at the poll results, 63% of you are saying no. You're not buying the Ritzworks solar pellet cooker thingy. All right, big show planned for you next week. The embedded correspondents are in, amongst others. We might have a James Howe reemergence in the first hour. We're locked and loaded, ready to go. A lot of 100% assurity questions. 100% yes or 100% no. I got to meet Rusty Monson in person. That will be a question that we ask next week for sure. So how do I always leave you? September 11th, 2001. I will never forget until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. This is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Good night now.
This is Jennifer Palamas from Charlotte, North Carolina, and this is BBQ Central.